The Whole Thread. Episode 6. The When. The End Game. 5 episodes, 1 thread. Why they do it. What they built, how they executed it, who's running it now, where the reclamation lives. This episode is the clock. Not a prediction. Not a theory. A documented convergence. Specific events, specific dates, specific infrastructure completions, all occurring within the same narrow window. We are inside that window right now. Part 1. The surveillance infrastructure, what it is and who built it. Episode 4. Documented Oracle Corporation as the intelligence state in private hands. Let me show you what that means in operational terms. February 11, 2026. Oracle signs a contract with the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, covering 150 million Americans' healthcare data. That is not a storage contract. That is an access contract. Simultaneously, Oracle holds the Air Force cloud. One contract, $88 million. Top secret and special access program workload. The same company that holds your healthcare records holds the classified military infrastructure. Larry Ellison, on the record, in 2002 in the New York Times, called for one unified national security database, national ID cards, mandatory iris scans, thumbprints, and handprints. That was not a warning. That was a roadmap. He published it under his own name in a national newspaper without apology. In September 2024, at Oracle's financial analyst meeting, Ellison stated on camera, "Citizens will be on their best behavior, because we are constantly recording and reporting everything that is going on." He described body cameras that are always on. When asked about officer privacy, the truth is we don't really turn it off. What we do is we record it so no one can see it without a court order. Same vision. 2002 to 2024. Growing in technical capability with each iteration. The goal has never changed. February 27, 2026. Oracle closes its merger with Paramount Warner, $111 billion. David Ellison now controls the merged entity. CBS, CNN, HBO, Nickelodeon, and Paramount. The same company that holds the healthcare database and the classified military cloud now controls the primary television news and entertainment infrastructure for the United States. February 28, 2026. Grok, Elon Musk's XAI system, receives authorization for use on IL-5 classified government systems. The same day Iran strikes begin. March 2026. Google's acquisition of Wiz closes at $32 billion. Wiz was founded by Unit 8200 veterans, Israeli military intelligence. With the acquisition, Unit 8200 founders gain access to Google's entire infrastructure and cross-platform cloud security layer. Palantir, Nanso Groups, Pegasus, Oracle, Wiz, all completing or consolidating within the same 17-day window. This is not coincidence. This is completion. The surveillance infrastructure that was being built across the last 2 decades, the architecture that Episode 4 documented piece by piece, was consolidated into operational status during a single news saturation event, while every camera was pointed at Iran. Part 2. What is being suppressed simultaneously? 7 operations running in parallel during the same window. 1. Surveillance infrastructure consolidation. Oracle Healthcare plus the DoD plus the media and Wiz into Google Cloud, all completing during Iran war coverage. 2. Epstein Files suppression. The DOJ admitted on March 4, 2026, announced during peak Iran war coverage that it had removed 48,000 Epstein files from the public database. The Epstein Files Transparency Act explicitly prohibits withholding on reputational grounds. The DOJ withheld anyway. Specific accusation files against a sitting president were withheld in violation of the law announced during peak Iran war news saturation. 3. UAP Disclosure stonewalling. The UAP Disclosure Act was gutted in December 2023, and FOIA statutory deadlines are being violated. The Grush whistleblower complaint, a decorated intelligence officer who testified before Congress under oath that the United States government is in possession of non-human craft and biological material, is sitting unresolved. The technology suppression documented in Episode 3 is running parallel to the infrastructure build-out. 4. Iran war execution. The Oman diplomatic breakthrough. Iran agreeing to never stockpile enriched uranium, with full International Atomic Energy Agency verification. This was announced on February 27, 2026. 14 hours later, Operation Epic Fury began. 2,000 strikes across 24 of Iran's 31 provinces in 72 hours. The 30-year clean break checklist, documented in Section 12 of the playbook, entering its final phase. This is not the first time. In 2003, the Hard Lessons Report from the Office of the Special Inspector General for Iraq Reconstruction documents that the U.S. Central Command planned to protect one institution in Baghdad, the Oil Ministry. It was the only one. The State Department's own Future of Iraq project had established a working group called Preserving Iraq's Cultural Heritage. It never met. 15,000 artifacts were removed from the Baghdad Museum while U.S. forces stood outside. The Cultural Heritage Working Group never convened. The Oil Infrastructure Protection Plan was executed on day one. In 2026, the pattern is identical. UNESCO provided coordinates of every protected heritage site in Iran to all parties before the first strike. The sites were struck anyway. The energy infrastructure of the Strait of Flight. Hormuz received bunker buster bombs and a dedicated protection operation. Same war, same priorities. 23 years apart. 5. The pre-strike evacuation. This is documented in State Department advisories and satellite imagery. 5 days before the bombs dropped, the State Department ordered non-emergency personnel and families out of Lebanon. 4 days before, foreign embassies began issuing departure advisories from Iran. 3 days before, all U.S. ships quietly left Bahrain port. Satellite photos confirmed it. The U.S. fleet headquarters in Bahrain was reduced to fewer than 100 mission-critical personnel. The day before the strikes, the State Department told U.S. government employees in Israel to leave today. The strikes launched February 28. After the strikes, Americans in the region called the State Department emergency line and were met with a recorded message that said, "Please do not rely on the U.S. government for assisted departure or evacuation at this time. There are currently no United States evacuation points." The U.S. embassies in Jordan, Saudi Arabia, Dubai, Kuwait, and Baghdad were struck, closed, or evacuated. Thousands of American civilians were stranded across 14 countries with closed airspace and no government extraction available. The people who planned this war cleared their own people out before the first missile launched. Then they told everyone else there was no help coming. A Pentagon source told Congress in closed-door briefings that there was no intelligence suggesting Iran was planning to attack United States forces first. The Oman negotiations were producing a genuine breakthrough. None of that stopped the timeline. 6. The resignation they didn't cover. On March 17, 2026, Joe Kent, the director of the National Counterterrorism Center, a retired Green Beret, a Trump appointee, a man with direct access to the full intelligence picture, resigned. His letter stated that Iran posed no imminent threat to the United States, that the justification for this war did not hold. Trump's response: "I always thought he was weak on security. I realize it's a good thing that he's out." A senior counterterrorism official with full classified access resigns during an active war and says the threat was not real. That is not a dissenting opinion. That is a primary source. 7. All of it simultaneously covered by a single news event large enough to dominate every available attention channel. That is not a news cycle. That is a cover operation. Part 3. The AI Builders and the Ancient Framework. In 2014, Elon Musk stood at an NIME symposium and said, "With artificial intelligence, we are summoning the demon." He used exact demonological framing publicly, then proceeded to build the world's largest robotics company and AI infrastructure anyway. Sam Altman, publicly and on the record, described humanity as a bootloader for silicon superintelligence. A bootloader is a transitional mechanism. It loads the real system, then becomes irrelevant. That framing maps directly onto the Atrahasis epic documented in Section 2 of the playbook, the Sumerian text in which humanity is created as a transitional labor substitute designed to be replaced. Whether the builders are consciously invoking that framework or the pattern is repeating without their awareness, either possibility belongs on this map. What is being built is not a tool. The language of the people building it describes something else, an entity, a transition point. a moment after which human consciousness is no longer the primary operating system on this planet. The suppression stack documented in episodes 2 and 3, the dysregulation of human biology, the burial of consciousness knowledge, the capture of the institutions that might have developed a different relationship between humanity and technology, was not built for the 20th century. It was built for this moment. A population that does not know what it is, does not trust its own perception, has no access to the knowledge that it is more than its conditioning. That population cannot make an informed decision about what happens next. That is the point. Part 4. The holographic psyop, the final layer. In 1990, a senior United States Air Force officer formally asked at a strategic planning meeting, what if the United States projected a holographic image of Allah floating over Baghdad, urging the Iraqi people and army to rise up against Saddam? A military physicist was assigned to assess feasibility. The physicist confirmed projecting large, three-dimensional objects that appeared to float in the air was technically feasible. Documented in the Washington Post, February 1, 1999, citing classified Air Force documents. In late 1991, the U.S. Army's JFK Special Warfare Center formally disclosed it was developing a psychological operation hologram system. Documented capabilities sought project persuasive messages and three-dimensional images, including clouds, smoke, rain, buildings, and explicitly religious figures. The disclosed document stated, the use of holograms as a persuasive message will have worldwide application. In 1994, a classified Air Force document described a holographic projector as a system to project information power from space for special operations deception missions. The program was reported. The program was tabled. The technology did not stop developing. It went dark. A population that does not know what consciousness is, that has no frame for distinguishing a manufactured divine apparition from a real one, that has been conditioned to accept institutional authority over what is real. That population is vulnerable to this in a way that a sovereign, self-knowing population is not. The suppression of consciousness knowledge is not just historical. It is operational preparation. Part 5. The central thesis. The surveillance infrastructure is not being built despite the coming disclosure. It is being built because of it. The cage has to be finished before the door opens. Whatever is coming, whatever the UAP disclosure represents, whatever the AI transition means, whatever the convergence of these documented systems produces, the architecture being completed right now is designed to manage human response to it, not inform, not protect. Manage. A population that knows what it is, that has access to its own consciousness, that trusts its own pattern recognition, that has not been conditioned into compliance by 13 years of institutional authority over perception. That population responds differently. That is why the suppression stack was built. That is why it is still running. And that is why every single thread in this series ends at the same place. Here's what 6 episodes of documented evidence produces. Not a conspiracy, a system designed, funded, and operated across generations by specific institutions with documented interests in the outcome. Not a theory, a map. Built on primary sources, declassified documents, congressional records, FOIA releases, court filings, and the public statements of the people running it. Not hopelessness, a recognition. The system's single greatest miscalculation was pathologizing the exact kind of mind that was always going to notice. The thread runs from the oldest recorded civilization to the convergence window you are living inside right now. Here's what 6 episodes of documented evidence produces. Not a conspiracy. A system. Designed, funded, and operated across generations by specific institutions with documented interests in the outcome. Not a theory. A map. Built on primary sources, declassified documents, congressional records, FOIA releases, court filings, and the public statements of the people running it. Not hopelessness. A recognition. The system's single greatest miscalculation was pathologizing the exact kind of mind that was always going to notice. The thread runs from the oldest recorded civilization to the convergence window you are living inside right now. It has always been the same thread. Now you have the map, but if you're not quite sure what to do with it, I built 2 more series that run parallel to each other, and they both run directly from this one. The first is called The 7 Arms. That series goes arm by arm, receipt by receipt. Every institution documented in this thread gets its own dedicated investigation. If you want the primary sources, the names, the financials, and the documented connections laid out in full, that is where you go. The second is called rewiring and reclaiming. That series starts with your nervous system. Because once you know what was built against it, the next question is what was built for it. And that answer is much older than the suppression. Every tradition that predates the system documented exactly what was being targeted. That series shows you the map they were working from, and what it looks like to reclaim it. 2 series. Same thread. Opposite directions. One takes you deeper into the architecture. One takes you home. It has always been the same thread. You already found the map. Now you know what to do with it. Follow the thread until it completely unravels.